Imagine you have enough money saved that you never have to work again. Not because you won the lottery, not because you inherited a fortune, but because you saved and invested enough that your money generates more than you spend every single year. That is financial independence, and there is a precise mathematical rule that tells you exactly how much you need. It is called the 4% rule, and today we are going to backtest the math behind it. The 4% rule was born from one of the most important pieces of financial research ever conducted. In 1994, financial planner William Bengen published a paper that changed how the world thinks about retirement. He asked a simple question: how much can you withdraw from a portfolio every year without running out of money? He backtested this against 50 years of real stock and bond market data from 1926 to 1976, including the Great Depression, including World War II, including every major crash in that period. His conclusion? Withdraw 4% in year one, adjust for inflation annually, portfolio lasts at least 30 years. That finding became the 4% rule, the most widely used retirement framework in the world. Let us be precise about what the rule says and what it does not say. What it says, withdraw 4% in year one, adjust for inflation annually, portfolio lasts at least 30 years. What it does not say, that 4% is safe forever, or that it eliminates all risk. It's a historically tested guideline, not a guarantee, but it's the most rigorously tested guideline we have. Now let's talk about what this means for your number, the exact portfolio size you need. If you withdraw 4% per year, your portfolio needs to be 25 times your annual expenses. This is called the 25 times rule. It's the direct inverse of 4%. 4% of 25 equals 1, meaning your portfolio covers 1 full year of expenses and repeats indefinitely. Let's put real numbers to this. Your expenses are $20,000 per year. Expenses of $40,000 per year, you need $1 million. Expenses of $60,000 per year, you need $1,500,000. Expenses of $80,000 per year, you need $2 million. That number, your annual expenses multiplied by 25, is your financial independence target. Now, let's talk about the research that validated this, the Trinity Study. 3 finance professors tested withdrawal rates from 3 to 8% against 69 years of market data, including every major crash, recession, and bear market from 1926 to 1995. They measured what they called the success rate. What percentage of the time did the portfolio survive? At 4%, with a 50-50 portfolio over 30 years, the success rate was 95%. 95% of all 30-year periods in the data, the portfolio survived. Only 5% of scenarios resulted in running out of money. At 3% withdrawal, the success rate was essentially 100%. At 5% withdrawal, the success rate dropped to approximately 80%. At 6% withdrawal, the success rate dropped to around 68%. 4% is the sweet spot, aggressive enough to be meaningful, conservative enough to survive almost everything. Now let's talk about sequence of returns risk, the single biggest threat to the 4% rule working. The danger isn't poor returns overall, it's poor returns in the early years of retirement. If your portfolio drops 30% in year one while you withdraw 4%, you're withdrawing from a much smaller base. You are selling more shares to fund your withdrawals, shares that can no longer participate in the recovery. This is called the death spiral, the mechanism behind the 5% failure rate in the Trinity Study. Let us illustrate with 2 scenarios. Same average return, completely different order. Scenario A, you retire with $1 million. Year 1, market drops 30%. You withdraw, portfolio $660,000. Year 2, market drops 20% more, portfolio $488,000. The market eventually recovers, but your portfolio never fully benefits. Scenario B, same $1 million, same returns, but the crash happens in year 20, not year 1. By year 20, the portfolio has grown significantly. A crash at that point is painful but survivable. Same returns, different order, completely different outcome. This is sequence of returns risk. Cash reserves and flexible spending are the most practical defenses against this risk. Now let's talk about the modern updates to the rule, because the original research has important limitations. Limitation 1, the 30-year assumption. The rule was designed for a traditional age 65 retirement. If you plan to retire at 40 or 45, you could have a 50 or 60-year retirement. Updated research suggests 3.5% for retirements over 40 years and 3% for 50 years or longer. Limitation 2, current market valuations may reduce future returns below historical averages. Some researchers now suggest 3.3 to 3.5% as a safer rate given current conditions. Limitation 3, the rule assumes fixed spending every year, but real retirement spending is not fixed. Most retirees spend more in early active retirement and less in later years. Flexible spending dramatically improves outcomes. Research shows that simply reducing spending by 10% in a bad market year significantly improves portfolio survival. Limitation 4, portfolio composition matters. A 75% stock allocation performs better for long retirements. Now, let's build your personal 4% rule framework step by step. Step 1. Calculate your annual expenses precisely, not an estimate, every regular and occasional expense. Most people underestimate their annual expenses by 15 to 25% when planning for retirement. Add a 10% buffer to whatever number you calculate. That buffer protects against the unexpected. Step 2. Multiply your annual expenses by 25. This is your baseline financial independence number. Step 3. Adjust for your planned retirement age. Earlier retirement means a larger multiplier. Planning to retire before 55? Use a multiplier of 30 instead of 25. Planning to retire before 45? Use a multiplier of 33. Step 4. Choose your portfolio allocation based on how long your retirement will last. 30 years or less, 60% stocks and 40% bonds is appropriate. 40 years or more, consider 75% stocks and 25% bonds for long-term survival. Step 5. Build a cash buffer. Hold 1 to 2 years of expenses in cash outside your investment portfolio. This buffer prevents you from selling investments at depressed prices during a downturn in early retirement. Now, let's talk about 3 refinements that make the 4% rule work better in real life. Refinement 1. The guardrails strategy. Use dynamic withdrawal rates instead of a fixed rate. If your portfolio grows significantly, increase your withdrawal slightly. If it drops, reduce slightly. Refinement 2. The bucket strategy. Divide your portfolio into 3 time horizon buckets. Bucket 1, 1 to 2 years of expenses in cash. This funds immediate spending without selling investments. Bucket 2, 3 to 10 years in bonds. This refills Bucket 1 as it gets spent down. Bucket 3, everything else in long-term growth investments. This grows for decades without being touched. The bucket strategy eliminates the psychological pressure to sell growth assets during a market downturn. Refinement 3, flexible spending, the simplest and most powerful refinement of all. In good market years, spend your planned amount. In bad market years, reduce spending by 10 to 15%. Now, let's look at what the numbers actually look like over a 30-year retirement. Assume a $1 million portfolio at 4% withdrawal rate with 60% stocks. Year 1 withdrawal, $40,000. After adjusting for inflation, by year 10, your withdrawal is approximately $48,000. By year 20, approximately $59,000. By year 30, approximately $72,000. In the 95% of successful scenarios, the portfolio doesn't just survive, it grows. You're not depleting the portfolio, you're harvesting the growth and leaving the principal largely intact. In the median scenario, a $1 million portfolio using the 4% rule ends 30 years worth approximately $2.5 million. You retire with $1 million, you spend $40,000 per year, and you end up with more than you started. What if markets perform worse in the future than they did in the past? This is a legitimate concern. This is why the 3.5% rule exists, a more conservative alternative for cautious planners. What if I have other income in retirement, Social Security, pension, rental income? Every dollar of reliable outside income reduces your required portfolio by $25. What if my expenses change significantly in retirement? Build your number on actual retirement expenses, not your current ones. For many people, retirement expenses are 20 to 30% lower due to no commuting, no work clothing, and paid-off mortgage. Here is what I want you to take away from this video. The 4% rule is not a magic formula. It is a historically tested framework. It has survived the Great Depression, 2 world wars, multiple recessions, stagflation, the dot-com crash, the 2008 financial crisis. 95% of the time, in the worst markets in modern history, 4% worked. Your number is simple: annual expenses multiplied by 25. Write it down. Build toward it deliberately, because the moment you hit that number, work becomes optional. Not because the math is perfect, but because the math is good enough. Good enough to give you options. Good enough to give you freedom. Good enough to change your life. If this gave you one idea worth acting on, subscribe. Every week we break down the numbers, systems, and frameworks that build real wealth. See you in the next one.